Hello there, welcome to False Democracy. And to help us build this page, please like, comment and subscribe. Today, I'm going to talk about the muzzle. Now, if you've got to wear one for work, then I can understand that, I can respect that, you still need a paycheck at the end of the day. But if you are wearing one voluntarily, it can only mean one thing, that you've been influenced by your government through the media, that it's actually going to protect you from the most dangerous virus in human history. Yeah. A virus so dangerous that you have to be tested to see if you even have it. I mean, imagine that back in the plague days, yeah? Ma'am, I think I've got the plague. Well, have you been tested? No. Well, shut the fuck up then. I mean, this is the ridiculousness of it, the arbitrary, restrictions and guidelines, inconsistency. You've got to see the holes in the whole argument. I know they'll roll out the doctors, Dr. Drew, Dr. Oz, Fauci, and they will continue this agenda, yeah? They'll tell you one thing, they'll go back 180 degrees and tell you another thing just so it fits the agenda. I'm just going to list a little clip of Dr. Oz here telling that you should vaccinate your children. Even though he doesn't himself, he insists that you do.
How do you convince the other parents out there that we need to do this?
Careful, I'm going to get it,
yes,
if that helps at all, but I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids. Because I've got 4 of them, and when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz, and my wife is not going to immunize our kids. My wife is not going to immunize our kids.
Again, you think that would make people at least curious, yeah? So, they roll the shield doctors out, yeah? But what about the countless other doctors, the independent doctors, the ones that are not on the government payroll? And they will tell you that what they're telling us about C-19 just isn't true, yeah? People are dying, but they're dying of other factors. They're dying with pre-existing conditions. The CDC came out and said 94% of people died of pre-existing conditions and that they would have died anyway. I mean, again, this isn't like false news now. This is all, researchable if you want to do it. But unfortunately, the masses won't. They'll absorb just what comes through the TV or through the news feed. But fortunately, you don't have to be a doctor to figure this out, yeah? You just have to use common sense. Now, they said this wasn't airborne, this virus, which can only mean it can be transmitted through things like inoculation, yeah? So if you've had the flu shot recently, well, there'd be a good chance that it was transmitted that way. Sharing needles, blood transfusion, similar to that of like HIV, which is also a man-made virus. Oh, you didn't know that C-19 had a patent? Well, it's not likely to be broadcast on the news, but yeah, these are other things that people should be up in arms about, but again, people are not really thinking for themselves nowadays. But let's go one stage further, yeah. Let's say that it is airborne, because they moved the goalpost anyway on this. Now, if your muzzle is cotton or paper or whatever material it is, how is that going to protect you from microscopic particles, yeah? I mean, it's been likened to a chain link fence keeping out mosquitoes. But anyway, let's take the argument a step further and say, okay, well, your muzzle will. This area here, your paper, face diaper, that's going to repel all the viruses, yeah? It's going to see this. It's not going to be able to penetrate. But I'm sorry to break this to you, but your actual skin is porous, yeah? Your skin's porous, your hair, your eyes are an orifice. When you're going to start thinking for yourself, yeah? Because people just think it's a mask, it's in a vacuum, it's not connected to anything else. This is connected to the one world government I've been telling you about. If you'd only connect the dots, please, you've got to start thinking for yourself. Okay, so why the mask? Well, I'll tell you, it's purely symbolic, yeah? It's a symbol for the 1% to see how gullible and how complicit people will be, that they will acquiesce and relinquish their rights on a whim due to what they've heard on the news, yeah? I mean, it's pretty much as simple as that. Johns Hopkins University in March, April told you that 1 million people were going to die of this. And rather than, again, do any sort of research, you've held on to them figures. And so the propaganda coming through the news, that has crippled you. You've locked yourself in your house initially, and now you've still got the muzzle on. I mean, I leave here in the morning and I go into the street and I see a zombie apocalypse. You know, all those movies we've been seeing for the last 10 years, that is symbolic of that. I mean, it is. It's like, again, the GMOs, the chemtrails, the fluoride, it's corroded your brain to the point where you cannot think for yourself. You're presented with a paradigm and you can't shift from that, even though Event 201 and Agenda 21 are still manifestos that are up on the internet, and you can read it and you can see that Event 21 was this time last year. Bill Gates and his cronies were, laying out a scenario of a pandemic due to a virus. It's just been played out to a T. Again, you couldn't make it up. I mean, it's never been about a virus. This is about crashing the world economy, yeah? Which they've done, which they will continue to do. How many businesses have been shut down because of this? How many more? I mean, initially, when they did the first lockdown, it was like a whack over the head. And now, for the people that didn't die, they're letting them bleed in the street, yeah, by restricting their business hours. I mean, again, if you just step back from this and saw it for what it was, we may be able to, salvage something, because if everyone took the muzzle off simultaneously, the Kung Flu would be finished. It would be over overnight. You know why? Because they'd suddenly realised then that the people finally woke up, and the people is where the power is, yeah? There's 99% of us, one of them. Again, the only reason that they've got this power is because you've relinquished it. It's as simple as that. I know it seems obvious, but, the mask is the only physical evidence that there is anything wrong, yeah? I mean, think about it. There's no bodies flailing in the street. There's no people with sores from head to toe. The mask is the only reason that you would think that there was something wrong globally, yeah? I mean, again, it's so frustrating when you've, presented people with not just an opinion, but with empirical evidence, and they still think this is, a minor inconvenience and we'll all go back to life as we know it. No, that's not going to happen, people. The mask is symbolic to see who will acquiesce, so they could then gauge the next set of restrictions. Have you not figured that out yet? It's going to be a mandatory vaccine. Then they're going to set up a social credit system like China. If you don't know what that is, you better start looking at it. Then, they'll do away with cash. And then they'll say, this global, economy. No, it's fine. We're going to have this reset. They keep using terms, the Great Reset, the Global Reset. They're going to offer you a digital option. And of course, as I've mentioned, that's the end of cash. So everything moving forward will have a record. Everything moving forward will be taxed. It's one big con, people. And if you can't grasp it by now, well, I don't know what else to tell you. Let's look at the pros and cons of wearing the muzzle. Benefits, 0. Detriments? Well, you're limiting your oxygen intake, yeah? That's a bad thing. You're breathing in your own carbon dioxide. If you're wearing it every day, you're going to be having gum disease, halitosis at best. What else? Breathing in the particulates of the mask itself. If you're wearing it every day, taking it off and putting it on again, you're creating bacteria that way. And then, however dirty it gets, you leave it somewhere and that's exposed, and then you breathe that in.